Welcome to the Branding Laboratory, where we explore the art and science of branding. I'm your host, Deevo Tindall, brand strategist, storyteller, and master photographer. Join us as we dive deep into the captivating stories, expert insights, and practical tips to help you elevate your brand and connect deeply with your audience. Let's get started. Welcome to the Branding Laboratory, where we're going to break down the art and the science of branding with industry leaders and experts. I'm Deevo, your host, and today we have a fantastic episode lined up. My guest today is Swire Ho. He's the co-founder of Garuda Promo and Branding Solutions, also known as the Promo Guy. You want to know how he got that name? We're going to dive deep into his journey, his brand's critical elements, and a special segment as usual where Swire is going to bring a branding or marketing challenge to the lab for us to solve together. So I really look forward to that piece. So a little bit about Swire before I let him say hello to you. He has built a remarkable career helping other businesses amplify their brand through his unique approach and impactful promotional products that he utilizes. He has a strong presence in LinkedIn and Instagram, so hopefully you'll check him out after the show. And his journey is full of a lot of valuable resources and lessons and innovative strategies that we're going to talk a little bit about today. Swire, welcome to the Branding Lab.
Thank you, Deevo, for having me on, and thank you for the warm introduction.
Yeah, man, I was doing a little advanced recon on you when I saw you got booked, and I was like, wow, this dude's got some things going on. A really impressive career you've built so far. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You have a really long litany of a bunch of variety of different things that looks like you've done. Can you maybe just walk me through your origin story? How did you get started? What was your career? What's the trajectory that brought you to the point that you're right here, right now, today on the Branding Laboratory?
I'll shorten it within a minute. So I don't want to be
it's longer than that. It's longer than that.
Yeah, I started my first business in the CD DVD industry. So if you're old enough to buy CDs, we make the CD here in LA. Also, the DVD was a boom. So we actually done that for a good 10 years. Along the way, musicians and then record company, when they finish, they ask, we're going on tour. Do you guys do t-shirts? And we're a film company, we want to do our gift back, right, for the red carpet. It is something that you do. So we stumble on to the promotional product industry. And in 2013, we actually sold the CD DVD part. Hindsight is 2020. I think that's the right time to do, and then focus exclusively on promotional products.
Do you think that in terms of your particular journey in that space, when you look back today, and I'm sure you've done some reflection on this, when you look back at sort of some of the pivotal moments of your trajectory, were you or are you able to highlight specific moments that may have shaped success or even some failures that you had? Have you looked back at those along this journey?
I start with the failure, like the mistakes, right? I was sometimes talking back to the customer. I haven't learned as much about customer service as I'm right now. Customer is always right. So that's what I'm sticking by. And then with nowadays, anyone who call a bigger organization right now, you've been put on hold for your life. And then you are not getting results after holding for 45 minutes. I was talking to myself as a smaller company, right, as a co-founder. What can I do to make sure that when customer calls Swire, they get Swire? And then when they have concerns, they have things that they want to do, how fast can we do that? So I think that's the mistake that I've learned from all those years, and see that if we can improve that, we can actually be in a very good place already.
That's an interesting thing that you said, and I know it's a bit of a cliche term, the customer is always right. Is there ever a situation when the customer is not right?
It is, but then in their mind, they're still right. So for example, there's one time we finished our product, we put it in FedEx hand. FedEx supposed to deliver the package. Somehow they have delays, so we can't control it. So it's not our mistake, but we still take the initiative to help the client to call FedEx, because if you haven't called FedEx lately, it's a game changer, right? If you call them, they don't know where your package is. So I think it is not our mistake per se, but then it's still customer. Like it's the package that they order before getting into their hands, so that we step in, we help solve the situation, and now the customer is happy.
Mm-hmm. I love how you use that I like how you diverted around that diplomatic response because I have I've had situations in my past where clearly from our perspective, the customer wasn't correct. Like they were either trying to get something that they didn't pay for, or we didn't deliver the way that they expected us to deliver, or they expected something completely different. And not that that's happened a lot, but I remember one story in particular early in my photography career where I had photographed a wedding. This is many years ago, and the client had only paid for a certain number of images for the wedding. They just didn't want to spend the big ticket on it. And then, but after the fact, they had actually changed their language in the contract. They physically copied and pasted it and sent it over to me and said that right here in the contract, it's stipulated. And I was like, first of all, this is not even the original contract, okay? I'm going to send you the original one. Let me just show you. You can clearly see that you doctored this. So second of all, I don't even know how to respond to that. But anyhow, make a long story short, they wrote this horrible review for me, which was completely unprecedented. And because we had delivered everything. But you're right. The customer perception is reality, right? So the customer had a perception on what they had received, what they expected, whatever it was. And no matter how wrong I thought they thought they were right. And so it's really important what you just said is being able to have empathy and understanding and listen to their concerns, but pragmatically communicate where there's a difference of opinion. So in that customer journey, as it relates to your business and how you've grown from A to where you are now, Z, how has your approach philosophically changed in dealing with customers?
I think I listen more than I speak. There are apps right now that can actually track for a virtual meeting like this, how long I've talked. I
Mm.
specifically want them to talk more than I do because before it's like a 70-30 ratio. Right now, I wanted to reverse it because by me asking better questions, I
Mm.
get better answers. But
Mhm.
by me talking, that means I'm not listening.
That I needed that app on a podcast a couple weeks ago. It was like 20 minutes in, and I still hadn't even gotten to ask a question, and I was like, shit. How am I gonna interject in here so that I can actually
Mhm.
get some of the protocols for the show? So I needed that. What's the app called? What is that?
There's a few. The one I use is Apollo, and I know there are other AI tools that actually track. They recognize your voice, and then they know how long you've talked. They can actually quote you
Hmm.
and get you transcript. So I think that's wonderful tools that I have.
Hmm. I'm gonna have to look into that. Thank you for the insight. So, Garuda Promo and Branding Solutions. Tell me a little bit about what you do. What is your product? What is your core product, your core service, and who are you ideally marketing with?
Thank you. We're in the promotional product business, and when people hear about our industry, they will think about the word swag. I actually don't use the word swag, which is stand for stuff we all get. So that
Mm.
means that if you get swag, that you just throw your brand giveaway to everybody. So you're not focused. You're doing a shotgun approach, and the people are very eco-conscious. We don't want to do brand feel. So instead, my approach is to find the VIP for a business. So if the client can tell me who they are, what's their demographics, we can actually find you with the database with our thousands of products, that unique product that resonates with the ideal client. And I think the ideal client for us will be, marketing department that has an annual budget for a promotional product. Like they don't want it to shop for themselves. They wanted to work with a professional that listens to them and then to find the right product that connect with their audience.
So you're not actually manufacturing the products. You have a client that comes to you and has a specific need, and then you're going out and acting as the middleman, finding all the different variety of products, and then you're doing. My camera's really weird today. And then are you being able to customize the products for them specifically in house, or do you take care of all that as well?
Yeah, a lot of time is kind of customization. For example, they want to build like an employees welcome kit.
Uh-huh.
So we'll get them a nice box, put in their employees menu. Maybe they want to give them a T-shirt, a mug, things that they think will welcome their employees. We'll put it all together. And in the world that we live in right now, some might work hybrid. So we'll actually drop ship all the boxes to employees that they on board across the country.
Oh, wow. So I'm imagining that in this capacity, you have built a massive Rolodex of relationships from all the different variety of resources that you're pulling materials for to fulfill these orders. How important in the scheme of running a business would you rank relationship building?
I think that's like my top one.
Yeah.
That would be probably my top. Like without the relationship and without us trusting our supplier and sometimes our client, then there's no business.
Have you always had that philosophy? Have you always been relationship first, or early? I just got off the phone with a client who we were having this really philosophical discussion on how early in our career we're hell bent on success, and so we don't necessarily look at relationship building as the number one core competency that we should be developing. As more of a selfish outward projection of who we want to be. And I certainly know early in my career, I worked in the corporate world for almost 15 years. I know straight out of college, I was like only focused on proving myself to my bosses and like having this certain amount of financial success or validation and success. And I wasn't really thinking about the relationships that I was building or not building at that time. So
Mhm.
back at you early in your career, was relationships always front and center with you, or does it mature as a matriculation over time?
I think I do value relationship, but I'm not going to say that nothing else matter. So obviously we're in a product-based business. Pricing needs to be
Mm.
competitive, but a lot of people have competitive pricing. If you think about that, like in here, there are always people calling us every day wanted to do business with lower pricing, or we actually get people from overseas all around the world actually to call me every single day to pitch me. But with the relationship, it is, and I think to my client as well, they have options, and we all have options nowadays. But you don't know that person. You don't know their counterpart. If you send your money or if you commit it with the project to them, do you know that they are able to fulfill what you're asking them to do? Even with that question, without that trust, then you can't build a relationship with the supplier. And then for clients, let's say they don't trust Swire, the promo guy at all. I don't trust that guy. Then they won't send me the order. By
Mm.
them sending me a purchase order or paying us with their money, that means that they have trust in our ability already, and it's on our end to deliver that promise. So I think if you don't trust someone, don't use them.
That's a really good point because when you've built that relationship with a business or a partner or a collaborative partner or a client, you, and you talked about pricing, it enables you to actually, I don't want to say dictate, but qualifiably raise your prices in a sense because you've developed that rapport, you've developed that trust. And so you're able to actually charge a higher price, which is based upon your value, than getting stuck in the competitive market of trying to price match with people over and over, right?
Yeah, that would be my dream goal for every client. Not I would say not every clients we could do that, but let me give you an example. We work with a larger organization where my main context surprisingly is not the marketing department, it's actually the executive assistant. And
Mm.
each executive assistant will help some of the partners, some of the executive director, and their goal actually is not to save money. They always call me like Friday afternoon. Because why? Because the executive will have their weekly meeting on the weekend, and then they will dump something on the executive assistant. We need this promo item by next week, or we are going on a trip. You find something for us, and they're scrambling. And these executive assistants don't want to go online and search for the perfect promotional product for trade show. They don't do that. They just give me a call and they said, Swire, we have this situation. Can you do that for us? 10 times I show them I'm able to meet the timeline to get the right product that the bot wants is. They don't really care about price so much. They just wanted to make it done and make their bosses look good, and then they will look good. So if I think about my ideal client to be like that, like you said, I could actually charge more money.
Absolutely. That's the objective for every small business owner is being able to build a reputation, build a relationship with your clients so that when you are able to charge the price of what you're actually worth, it's not necessarily scoffed at. The clients look at it and like, you're totally worth every penny of that. But yeah, so interesting. I don't know why my camera keeps going in and out. I apologize. All right, so I'm back. All right, so one thing I'd like to do here on the Brand Lab is I like to break down what I think are the big four core elements of a brand. Okay, and maybe you can agree or disagree. But for me, the four critical components of a brand message are a company's mission. So that's their North Star. Where are they ultimately trying to take this business? The second piece are their core values. Their third pieces are their unique value proposition. So what problem are you solving for your clients? And then the fourth is how do you define and create your ideal client, right? So I'd like to spend a few minutes, if you will, just dissecting your brand so we can better understand and my listeners can hear from your purview how you establish some of the messaging that your brand creates. So, what is your Garuda? And what's the name behind Garuda, by the way? Is there some meaning behind that?
I do yoga, so Garuda actually comes from my ego wrap process, Garuda Asana. So I think it has a nice ring to it, like Swire. Like, how do you pronounce Swire if you haven't met a Swire before? Like that. It's a good conversation opener.
We have a Swire and a Deevo on the same podcast. They're both unique. All right. So in the mission statement for Garuda Promo and Branding, what's your mission statement?
The mission, I having trouble with that, and I'm glad that you're doing this for me. Is I always do, if you ask me the ideal client, I can ask you that first. Can we do it in reverse order?
All right, how about we do it this way? I have a little exercise that helps you define what your mission is.
Mm.
So if I were to ask you to do that, would you feel comfortable doing that?
Yeah, I'll try. Yes.
Okay. Trying to disrupt the flow of the podcast here already. I see how you roll. All right, so do you have a piece of paper and a pen with you?
Yeah.
All right, get those out. All right, so we're going to create your mission statement right now, just so we have some clarity on what is Garuda's North Star, right?
Mm.
So and so just so if you're listening, for the people who are not necessarily familiar with this exercise, one of the things that I have found in working with small business owners is that they think that this is just lexicon, this is just jargon, that it really doesn't matter. So having a mission statement isn't just what's great. It sounds good. We're going to put it on one of those fancy posters and hang it in our center office, but then everybody forgets about it. And that's the problem with it. And so one of the things that I really encourage most of the clients that I work with is if you can develop a mission statement that centers around and defines your purpose, why you're in business, the reason for your existence, and what you ultimately hope to achieve, it becomes this North Star. So as you build your business and scale your business, it's an iterative process. And over time, you might make tweaks and adjustments to it, but ultimately it helps you act as a guide for your future decision making. It aligns the people in your organization. It helps the people that you're collaborating with and your partners understand why you're doing what you do. So here's what it is. We help, and then you're going to fill in the blank. So this is your exercise. We help blank, and that blank is your target audience. So you said you knew that already, so you're ahead of the curve. Do, and then fill in the blank. So we help target audience do what? So that's what you're going to fill in, that what. By, and then you're going to fill in how. So we help a target audience do X by Y. Does that make sense? So for me, I help entrepreneurs and small businesses create compelling brand stories by providing strategies, brand messaging, and storytelling expertise. So that's my mission. So if you had to fill in your mission, we help, who's your target audience?
It's broad, so that's not ideal. Like I would say, if it's a mission statement, I would say we help brands, but obviously their brand, there's a lot of people in it. So I would filter it down to marketing department.
So you help all marketing departments.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to write that down. All right, and then you help do what?
We help them. Actually, I've changed it recently. I changed it to, because people like that. We help people create mini advocates for their brand.
Create what is it? Create what? Mini advocates? By doing what? How is it that you do that?
By building the customer retention, and then by bringing brand awareness to the brand.
All right, so we help marketing departments create multiple advocates by building customer retention and brand awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about what those words mean to you. When you say, so why is your market only marketing departments? When you've taken a look at your data, is it exclusively, primarily, by and large, those are the people that you're working with?
Like the bigger accounts, yes, those are people in the marketing department.
And then create multiple advocates means you're trying to help brands with your promotional products, providing them to your clients so that they can in turn give greater brand awareness to whomever they're distributing these to. Is that sort of the tool for the mechanism there?
Yeah, with nowadays, people want to represent the brand that they love. So we actually create the tangible product. It could be a t-shirt or a water bottle or things that their client can use. So they actually become more loyal to the brand and start sharing the picture wearing the product of their favorite company, and then broadcast it to their community. So that's something that we see more. So I think we should definitely include in there.
Okay. All right. So Garuda's mission is we help marketing departments create brand advocates by enhancing customer retention and increasing brand awareness.
Maybe the last two words, we need to work on it, right? I think it will catch people's attention, but then at the end, do you think that I'm losing because I'm not saying that we do promotional item, because I have not mentioned promo item, even though obviously we're in the promotional product industry?
I think personally, and again, I don't know your business terribly well enough. My first piece that I would want to work with is that marketing department's piece. Is there a better way to say marketing departments that doesn't pigeonhole you with just marketing departments? Because some companies, I don't know do you work with small businesses and entrepreneurs who don't necessarily have large teams?
Mm-hmm.
They might not have a marketing department, so that might preclude them to some extent. And I'm not saying it does or doesn't. It's just like when I first read that, I'm like, is marketing department a preclusionary tactic by excluding people who might still need your product, but because I don't have a marketing department, I'm a little bit turned off by that.
Yeah, that's why I always go back to brand. But if I say brand, then it's too broad. Like that means everyone.
So I'm just writing something down here to see if we could change that up a little bit. Businesses, are they interchangeable? Can we just use the word businesses? We help businesses create brand advocates by enhancing, and then we can work on the last two by enhancing customer retention, increasing brand awareness. Does businesses fulfill a void? Does it have to just be marketing?
No, we work with manufacturers. We work with people in the plumbing industry. Those are businesses. I don't think they consider themselves a brand versus maybe like someone in the entertainment industry per se.
All right. So can we agree that businesses at this point might make more sense?
Sure. Yes.
All right. So we're good with that. We're going to stick with businesses. And then the last piece that you're concerned about was by just using the terms customer retention and increasing brand awareness, you feel like that might be precluding some of what you actually do?
Some people will get it. Really, if I'm talking to the right person who have done it before, they know the keyword. But then sometimes I would say that people are like, so what is it that you do?
So what if we were to somehow spin the words promotional products into that mission statement? So we help businesses create brand advocates through promotional products, enhancing customer retention and increasing brand awareness. So we can still keep those two impact statements at the end, but now we've been able to throw in promotional products.
I have done it before. I would say create brand awareness with meaningful promotional product, because I think like when you introduce me, I say, when I introduce myself as a promo guy, people will say the word swag, which is the word we actually don't use. Like we don't just do brand feel. And when people think about promotional product, most people think about the pants, the water bottle that you just give away randomly to people.
So we help businesses create brand advocates through impactful or meaningful promotional products, enhancing customer retention and increasing brand awareness.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, we solved that problem then. All right, next one. I like to talk about values. So just for people who are unfamiliar with the term values. So values are, and I'm not giving you an education on this, I'm just for my audience, right? So I'm assuming you understand what values are, right? So values are really all of the pieces that are emotional triggers, right? The things that we really value the most in our life. And so my core values, for example, are authenticity or being genuine, being honest and candid. I don't pull punches. I'm like, I tell you exactly what I feel. Creativity, obviously I work in a creative space. And so creativity has to be really important to me in all ways. This is not just being creative in my photography, but creative in creating mission statements and being able to look at things through my clients' lenses, for example. Empowerment, because I believe that everybody should have the freedom and autonomy to be able to express themselves liberally and say the things and do the things in their business that they want to do. Connections and relationships are like two of my huge value points. And then excellence. And excellence for me is just striving for the highest standards possible in all aspects of what I do in my business and my relationship building, etc. So if you had to do a 5-minute exercise, and I lost my pin here, if you had to do a 5-minute exercise on what some of the core values that Swire represents, what would you say those are?
How many can I pick?
You get 5.
I would say the first one is integrity. So it
Love it.
goes, along with what I just said. And I think in our business, it's consistency. So that means a lot for certain people because they need to make sure that the color that they use, the things, the production that we do consistent to all the time. So
Mhm.
that's a big piece. I think being on time is value. Like we never miss a deadline. That is a big plus. And then
Would you call on time being reliable? Is that would that be the value, or just being on time?
reliable. Yeah, I would say
Reliable.
reliable.
Okay. All right. So that's three: integrity, consistency, reliable.
On time communication. So communication, we talk about that a lot.
Huge. And you get one more.
Candid. I would say candid because they don't want it to talk to a robot. People still want to talk to a human being. And when you work with us, if you work with me, then you really get me and my team behind it.
So it's more of a personalized approach.
Yeah,
So
personalized. Mm.
personalized. So Swire's values are integrity, consistency, reliability, communication, and personalized. So when you think about those values, and I asked this question at the beginning of the program,
Mhm.
have those values changed over time for you?
I think integrity, why I bring it the first one, because I do really value that. And then that's all the trust, right, that we talked about. I don't think much, maybe the way that I say it might. These are the things that we really live by. Like we really focus on our timeline, our consistency. So I think over 20 years, it hasn't changed much.
Have you ever had a situation with a customer where these values came into question and what you thought was important to you wasn't necessarily vibing with what the client's experience was?
I think all the time, a lot of times I'm more concerned about their timeline than they are. So happens every day.
So one of the things that we do in an exercise in our branding discovery is we take these values and then we assign metrics for them. So
Mm,
integrity means for you that in every situation you're dealing with candor, honesty, and a transparent perspective so that the client always knows where you stand, for example.
hmm
And consistency is no matter what it is, every time, every day, in every situation, we're going to show up with the same quality, the same type of feedback, the same type of product, et cetera. So if you could assign in your values what integrity means to you, and you already did that, but if someone were to say to you, okay, integrity is one of your values, Swire, but what does that mean for me? What does that exactly mean for me?
Which is, will be honest to you, sometimes there are timelines that we are not able to do. And then in advance, I'll tell them this is not something that I will do. And I know that others in our industry might just take your money. And when it happens, it just don't show up. We never do that. So if I know that in advance, this cannot be done, or whatever that they're trying to do won't fit the actual physical item, I'll tell them in advance. So some people appreciate that.
Hmm. And consistency is elaborate on that one.
Consistency, we follow the branding guide to make sure that the blue color or whatever brand color that they have, it will be consistent on all the product. And then when we submit something for them, will be consistency to the guidelines. So we study what the mission statement, what they like to buy. A lot of our client right now will buy eco-friendly product only. So
Mm,
whenever I curate a list for them, it will only be product that are relevant to them. So I think the consistency comes in this part.
mm. And reliability. It sounds like it's pretty self-explanatory, but just tell me in Swire's words what that means.
We communicate. A lot of times you order, then you never hear from the supplier, never again. So we communicate with them whenever there are challenges. We let them know. Sometimes there are going to be delays. We communicate with them and really trying to come up with a solution. Obviously, not miss the timeline, not go over budget. Make sure that whatever that product that we promise we do them, they'll actually get it the way that it should be.
And finally, personalized.
I think that's the key. That's why they come to us. They wanted
Mm,
to personalize each promo item with their pen. Sometimes that item or that set is not available. So it's our job to personalize it for them so that it becomes something that is unique to their brand.
I love it. Thank you for that feedback on that. And thanks for going through that exercise. Final one before you get to ask your question of what you're struggling with or what some insights we might work through together. your unique value proposition. And so for me, everything centers around, because there are lots of people who are podcasters, there's thousands of people who are branding experts, there's a bazillion photographers. So it was really important to me as I grew my business that I started to really hone in on what made me uniquely qualified to provide a solution for my clients. So what made me different as a photographer? What made me different as a branding expert? What makes me different as a podcast host? And so for me, when I think about my unique difference is that I have a innate ability to connect with people on a different type of level than just showing up and taking photographs. I have a very intuitive eye, I have a very intuitive instinct. And so being able to have conversations and build relationships with people, it enabled me to open up and pull back the covers of my clients and take better photos, understand their brand a little bit better, and really be able to crystallize and help them develop what that messaging looks like so that they can share that with a larger audience. And so my formula for the unique value proposition is similar to the mission, but you're just going to change out your unique approach at the end. So with your paper and pen, we help our target audience do what by, and then you're going to fill in your unique approach to things. So for me, mine is I help entrepreneurs and CEOs connect deeply with their ideal audience by crystallizing their brand messaging and creating compelling content around that. So when you think about your unique value proposition, tell me what that unique thing is that you do differently than every other promotional product company out there.
I don't know how to put it in a sentence, but what my unique approach is, I listens and then I communicate, because a lot of time when I deal with manufacturer who only speak the manufacturer language, I deal with creative personality who only speak creative language. I also deal with the money department, all the different department. A lot of time they actually don't talk to each other and they refuse to use other language that other department uses. It's me who my job is taking it all in and then come up with a solution for each party to make everyone happy. We could make this project happen. I don't really know how to put that in a sentence, right?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do right now. So your unique qualities are being able to help businesses create the brand advocates through the promotional products that you do. And the way that you do that is by listening and communicating effectively. And in essence, you become a chameleon, is what I'm hearing you say, because you develop this customized approach and then being able to communicate that with the client and making sure that everything that they get back is exactly what they said and then some in a quality and a qualifiable way. Is that sort of what I heard you say?
Yeah, I like that. Yes.
All right, so let me just tape that out. All right, so this is your unique value proposition. Let me think about these words here for a second. So the chameleon is the piece that I really want to play off of. The chameleon and the ability to interpolate almost what they need, extract that in the conversations, and then be able to turn that back around for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so chameleon. So is English your native tongue? I'm just curious.
No,
Obviously, I'm assuming you're
I
from.
born and raised in Hong Kong. So my second language.
So, and in the process of running a business in America, and I'm assuming you work with businesses all over the world. How has language been a barrier for you in any way, shape, or form, or did you know English early on in your career, in your life?
It's funny that I came after high school. So my English is very business-like because I learned it through doing business, communicate with customer. And then if I speak Cantonese, it's all slang, right? So I think it's funny to think it that way. I'm learning a lot of lingual because I know that we just talked about that with the chameleon. So with different people, I need to use different words. And I learned to, because it's a new language for me. So I think it's easier for me to pick up things that I don't know and look up for it. And I think if you're a native speaker, sometimes if you don't know what the person is saying, like out of your norm, like the way that you listen to it, you
Totally.
feel odd. So I think that's actually, it becomes an advantage to me with English being not my first language.
I didn't ask you that to pick on you, by the way. I just came back from Europe and I was blown away because I was in 5 different countries over the course of 2 weeks. And
Mhm.
and a lot of people speak English. We're dumb Americans over here. We basically don't even speak our own language. And I was blown away that everybody basically speaks a version of English. But what was
Mhm.
crazy to me, from Vienna to Budapest to Prague to Amsterdam to Germany, everybody has a different lexicon and an understanding of
Yeah.
what an English word meant. And so it was really funny. I'd be sitting in one particular situation. I was with my daughter, and we were sitting in a bar, and there was this young Hungarian girl that was hanging out talking to us. And we had to break down a lot of the different words that we said because they each
Yeah.
had different meaning. And so I was just curious. And so my parallel that I made to that is, how many times do things get lost in translation when you're working with even a native tongue speaking client that has an idea about what something meant, but it got interpolated or misconstrued and went down a rabbit hole, which is why and I'm going somewhere with this, how important it is to have clarity around your brand message and what you do so that regardless who reads it, they understand the impact and the meaning for that.
Yeah, I think so. And especially if you use Google Translate or ChatGPT, it does get lost in translation, especially a lot of the manufacturer do come overseas. And if you try to translate your entire message, sometimes you get lost in translation and the material, the color sometimes are a mistake because people think that they can just go direct and then they actually order something that is not consistent.
All right, so here's what I'm thinking about with your words, with your unique value proposition. So this chameleon approach for me, when I look at it, it centers around adapting to the client's unique needs or tailored solutions for every client. So I would take your unique value proposition and we create brand. So this is the mission, also very similar to the mission. We create brand advocates with impactful promotional products, boosting customer retention and brand awareness by adapting to each client's unique needs or through tailored solutions for each client. Do either of those resonate?
Yeah, I like the tailor-made solution that will give them think about what does it mean. So I think, if I tell them the mission statement, if they ask me follow-up question, so I think, it has done its job.
Perfect. All right. We've done our job so far with that. So thank you for humoring me on this exercise. All right. So now we're at the next piece of our podcast where, and I'm sorry you didn't get the note from me, but what pieces, so we're going straight into the lab again, what sort of information or projects or unique challenges are you toiling with right now that I might be able to help you also dissect and break down?
I think with the branding part and with your health, Devo, is with us talking for a little bit now who my ideal clients are. And I can accept that not everyone is my client. But then with the branding message, how can I really, let's talk about sales of my funnel, to put in the right people using our brand message? Because if I try to promote something out there, that could mean everyone. But we only work with certain ideal client that we know that fits into what we like to do.
So now that we've clarified our mission, now that we've clarified our unique value proposition, we have our values, we have our succinct values. The question is, how can you pivot and then communicate more effectively with a very targeted audience? So tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now. Or you have a website, obviously. On the website, how interactive with you are you on the website? Are you writing blog articles? Are you showing up in thought leadership? Are you showing case studies of things that you've solved for clients? Are you doing anything of those nature?
Yeah, we're writing blogs. We try to jump on trend. We try to be specific about, we do a job for a client, then we do a case study. For myself, what I'm doing right now, I've been on over 100 podcasts as a guest.
Uh-huh.
So if you actually, I know all people do when you talk to someone, you Google that person's name. So if you Google Swire Ho hashtag the promo guy, you'll see the first 5 pages for me talking about promotional products. I try to get ourselves out there and active on LinkedIn. I engage in networking
But
community.
but is what you're doing targeted? Do you feel like, based upon understanding what your value proposition is,
Mhm.
which is this tailored approach, right? And the fact that everything you do is done with integrity, consistency, reliability, communication, and I keep going back to this personalized, tailored approach that you do. So you're not a one size fits all approach, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
So when you're doing targeted content marketing, whether it's a blog, whether it's an article on LinkedIn, whether it's a podcast that you're showing up on, writing case studies, are you sharing this information so that you can show exactly what you did for a client and how you solved the problem and the unique approach that you took?
Yeah, I think this will bring another category for us to talk about. I really talk about customer retention, right? So I can help customer retention. For what I do, actually, I actually do communicate with each and every one of our customers, especially if they're my ideal client, after the sale. So I will ask them, I get a lot of referrals. I ask them, are you happy with the service that we have done for you? If it's just not right or they're not completely satisfied, we try in our ability to fix it. They become happy. And then I'll always ask them for referral. If they work for a bigger organization, do you happen to know a colleague in another department who might be able to use our product and services? So I think by communicating, I do a better job in getting those quality referral. And I think those are actually a lot better. And if I connect with someone on LinkedIn and they to qualify me, so it's a longer sales cycle at that end.
In terms of the clients that are writing you testimonials, are you asking for, or sending you referrals, sorry, are you asking for written or video-based testimonials that you can actually use in a user-generated content on social media, on LinkedIn, repurposing on a blog, et cetera, of that nature? Like you just finished working with me and you just delivered a multiple $1,000 project, a product to me that I'm going to distribute to my clients over on my side. Do you turn back around and say, hey, Deevo, love to hear what your feedback was on this? And as like a bonus, we'd love for you to record a small, and you can even provide this for them, a small video loom that just says, man, I worked with Swire for the last 3 months, and I can't even tell you how amazing he was. He did this, he did that, blah, blah, blah. Do you ask for any sort of feedback like that?
I ask for review sites. Sometimes they will write me email. I haven't had the success for getting them on video. They're all busy. If you know a way, let me know. I do wanted to just build on that relationship because if I know that they're happy, they're more willing to tell their colleague, their friends about Garuda promo.
What if you were to, I don't know, I keep on losing my video. What if you were to do something of this nature once the project was delivered? Okay. You said, hey, I'd like to have, can I have 5 minutes of your time for a quick video interview? And you recorded it over a Zoom like this, and you ask them some very pointed questions on the process, the deliverability, the quality, the customization of the personalization, and you got their permission to record this and then use that on social media.
I can try. I'll have to think about it. Like certain personality will probably say yes, but for a lot of the corporate buyer, a lot of them are very busy.
Everyone's busy, but you could also invite them to use that in a, so another, maybe there's a different direction you could take it. Maybe you could, do you have your own podcast?
I do.
So what if you use part of your segment of your podcast as an interview capacity with clients, and then you're going to let them know that they can you're going to let them use this show for their own promotional purposes to like broadcast on what they do. But in that podcast itself, one of the segments of the show is you getting feedback from them on the experience they had working with, sorry, Garuda.
I actually have tried that, but the success rate again is not high. I actually make it asynchronous, right? So
Hmm.
I actually create a synchronous podcast and send it to them, like you said, to ask that 5 question. So far, I think I might have 10 responses. Got to work on the response and people willing to do that. They're willing to write reviews and sometimes send us an email, which we repurpose on our social media. But really to get them on the mic or on the video is still working on it.
Interesting. All right, well, let's table that one and we'll come back to it because I have a couple of other ideas. Are you using email in any way, shape, or form to communicate with your clients?
With newsletters, and then I do check in with them from time to time, especially I know I time them. I know that they are going to do a trade show, they do year-end holiday gifts. So sometimes I know their schedule better than they do.
But are you using email to just stay front and center with your ideal client and your database in
I think
terms of,
all the
sorry,
time, that's like my go-to tools and also the phone as well.
great. Oh, why you're using, you're doing cold calling or just check-in calling?
Check in with my client. I know that they have the gala, they have the event, their anniversary. So I actually in my CRM build the entire profile because I always joke about it. Like whenever I hear from my insurance agent, is I know that I'm due for renew. I don't want to be that person. So along the way, casually I'll check in. Are you working on someone new or know of a contact who might be able to use our product and services? I do try to be very proactive on that end.
Is there a market? Well, you're doing all the right things so far. Is there a market for you to do any sort of webinars and workshops and invite some of the CEOs or marketing experts onto the webinar itself as a guest expert on something where you're able to drop some of your intellectual thought seed, but you're also playing off of their egos and getting them on as the thought leader experts to also do some sort of distribution of information?
Yeah, I think that will be good, but I still trying to come up with a topic that will engage with them. So I think now with being a guest on podcasts, that's actually a really good platform for me because I could reach Deevo, your audience. And then when I go to other podcasts, I can network with the host and then really engage with the audience. And luckily, I do get clients sometimes inquire after the episode drops.
Mm. I like the idea of webinars. I do them on a regular basis, and I invariably pick up a client or two from them. But
Yeah.
what I really love most about webinars is it gives me the opportunity to continue to develop who I am as a business owner and show my thought leadership to a new audience that I hadn't seen. But most importantly, I love collaborative workshops because I get to invite people like you onto the show to come in and talk about what you do best. And then it gives you an opportunity to borrow my audience like a podcast, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it lets you hold the limelight for a bit. And I find that when I do those collaborations, other leaders love being able to step into my space as like the subject matter expert. So it's really been a cool tool to build relationships and stroke their ego a bit, if you will, but really get, most importantly, their take on a series of topics that my audience might also appreciate, which is why I do this podcast, by the way. It's just being able to hear your insights and share that with my audience.
And I think it polished the way that I answered the questions because a number of questions that I get asked, what's the perfect promotional product? So instead of me jumping into the Rolodex of what I have, I could actually answer in a way that engage more questions, which is what I'm trying to do by talking more about actually what you're passionate about doing. You will actually improve yourself too when you actually on the call with a customer.
Man, I think that what you have going on right now, it seems like you have a really good Rolodex of information that you're doing for your branding and your marketing, and just really just requires a few tweaks. Is there anything else that maybe you have a question about that I might be able to try to break down for you as well?
I think the exercise, Devo, you put me through, it's great. I'll definitely go back to the episode and write down all the notes, maybe to rethink what I need to do. So I think if we are in front of our right target audience, they know the value that we have. But the better part that I could do is how can I better position ourselves to become all the ideal client? Can I put them all in one place and, like you said, do a webinar? Then it will be a lot easier than to try and to pick out each and every one of them anywhere here in the world.
Are you using social media with a lot of impact?
Yeah, my biggest platform is LinkedIn.
And so you're able to physically go into LinkedIn, you're actually making real connections on there?
Yeah, I try to. Sometimes I do get to connect with someone that is either can help me or can become a ideal client.
I have found. Are you still there? Because you just
Yeah, I'm
froze
here.
on me.
I'm here.
You froze on me.
I'm here.
Okay, cool. All right. I have found that LinkedIn can be a valuable tool, but I sometimes get lost in the shuffle of everybody just posting stuff that doesn't really seem to have a big impact.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, does that really matter? Does that really not matter? So I get lost up in that shuffle with LinkedIn. All right, cool. Swire, this has been a really cool conversation with you. I really appreciate it. Where can people best find you? You mentioned LinkedIn is like your best resource. Where's the best way to find you?
Again, really to look me up, Swire Ho, hashtag thePromoGuy on Google. So if you wanted to learn more about promotional product, you could go there. I love networking, so do reach out on LinkedIn. And Devo, if you like, I could send you a backlink to good resources. People can look about customer retention and brand awareness. If you could share it to your audience.
I would love to do that. Share it with me. We'll put it in the notes, in the show notes, and then also, of course, your resources and where people can find you.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. I hope the show was helpful for you. Thank you so much for being a guest. I really enjoyed getting to know you and your brand and learn a little bit more about what you're doing in the world with Garuda. And I just really appreciate your time. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in to the Branding Laboratory. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Connect with us on social media for more branding tips and insights. And remember, your story matters. Until next time, keep building and sharing your unique brand story. I'll see you soon.